Welcome to our Quick Fire Friday podcast. This is the Grow a Small Business Podcast Friday series, designed for people who need big insights in little time. In just 20 minutes each week, with no fluff, just real, proven tactics from people who know their stuff. With your hosts, Mick, AJ, and me, Rob Cameron.
Hi, this is AJ. I've got a very special guest with me again today. And today we're going to talk about one of the pillars that we often refer to at Grow a Small Business. And part of our philosophy is to keep really simple, really focused, and really action orientated. And the way we do that is we look at all the zillions of things a small business owner has to juggle. And there's 5 key pillars we commonly talk about. They are strategy, systems, funding, and then the big ones, people and marketing. So we thought Trewin and I would talk about marketing today. So welcome to Trewin, the founder of Grow a Small Business. Hey, Troy.
Hey, AJ, thank you. And I think you're the special guest because this is your corner, marketing. As much as I love studying up and trying new marketing things, you're the guru in the team.
Well, that's very kind, Troy.
And we've only got 20 minutes because I'm sure you and I could riff about this for many hours because obviously I've seen a lot in the trenches in small business, as have yourself, and working in big business around marketing as well. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Totally. So how about you kick it off, because you have a really interesting way that you look about marketing, or how you used to look about marketing and how you currently talk about marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So late 99, I started 2 internet companies. One was a retailer selling gifts. I had a great Greek family as business partners in Melbourne. And that was panning for gold, as they like to say in the gold rush analogies. And we also started with 3 mates, a web design development company in Melbourne, building websites, so selling the shovels and the pans. So did that for many, many years. The web company's still going. So I think there's around 100 team members now and 6 offices. But it was probably 10 years in before I could spell marketing, to be honest, AJ. And I do joke about it with small business owners that they can't spell marketing. And I was certainly guilty of that at the start. And what I mean by that in jest is that I never really understood the value of marketing, let alone what good marketing looks like, or the fundamentals. And that's certainly something in the last, 15 years, I've really been swatting up on and devouring a lot of content and books and courses, etc., to understand the all-important corner of marketing. So about a third of my professional development each week, I do about 13 hours a week, and about a third of that is just on marketing, not just the tactical stuff like is Instagram still working, SEO, email marketing, etc., but also the strategy stuff, like having the awesome Mark Ritson on our podcast many years ago. He's got a great online course that you've done that I want to do pretty soon as well, that covers the fundamentals of marketing. So I've really changed my attitude to marketing. One of the 2 main growth pillars, I believe, in small business, if you want to add a lot of value to your business and generate more profits, is people and marketing. So it's really important, and it's something I rant on about a lot with small business owners. And it's one corner, even though we're not, a marketing shop per se, it's so important. We do have some of the materials and the advice we, for example, point them to the right courses and books in our 4-week strategy program when we talk about that pillar as well. So very, very important.
Welcome to the light side.
Not the dark side.
I love it.
When the light bulb really came on for me was, I think would have been around 2008, around then. I had 2 mates in Sydney. They started their cybersecurity company the same time we started ours in late 99 in Melbourne. And less than 10 years later, I think it was, they sold their business for the first time, and actually had Nick, one of the co-founders, a mate of mine, on the podcast, went live earlier this week on Monday. And he talks about it and quite openly says they sold for $23 million after less than 10 years. And what I found really interesting as I studied their growth and their success was Nick was the nerd, as he freely admits on the podcast, as do I. The technician, really good, knows his stuff, But Eddie, my other friend, is the general manager, would focus on building the brand. So he'd get Nick out there talking a lot, writing white papers, etc. But also with Eddie owning the look and the feel and the brand of the business and the marketing. And they just knocked it out of the park. And then, as Nick says in the podcast, went on 3-4 years later to do it all again and sell for another 24 million, I think it was, in less than 3 years. So, and again, the power of brand and marketing.
Yeah, and you're so true. I mean, I pick up a few really amazing points there. I mean, one going back to Mark Ritson, yeah, I did his program in 2017, and I just left a corporate career. So, big budgets in marketing, big brands from around the world, and, all the glitz and glamour that kind of goes with that. But I'd fallen out of love with the actual practice of marketing. I kind of lost my way a bit, and going back to the best practices. In Mark Ritson's course, you cover some of the history, like how do we get to where we are today, but also start to put a bit of framework and some controls around. And to me, that was a turning point. Like, how could I take all that big business stuff and that knowledge and adapt it to fit small, medium-sized businesses, which is the spot I love to work in. And so that was a really pivotal moment. And you're right, it's about that constant, like every industry staying up to date with how things are moving. And you touched on, the personal brand, and we know, particularly the last few years, and Daniel Priestley actually does some great work around this, the rise of, the key person of influence brand, where all the IP is like with someone like yourself, Troy, it's all that expertise and knowledge wrapped up in one person, and you become the brand. Whereas, years ago, it was, we talked about the hairdresser down the street or the butcher up the street, or, and then the widgets they sold. And so we talked a lot about business brands, and that's changing over the last few years. So some great points there. Do you have any other clients that you've worked with recently that you can highlight, like how they've changed their business by having a bit more of a focused approach to marketing?
Yeah, before we go there, I might just want to circle back to Mark Ritson and encourage the audience. We'll link through it in the show notes. It's an excellent podcast, not only hilarious because Mark swears almost as much as me, but his take on things, he's very direct as well as you and I are. And when I first saw him speak, the thing that really got me, because heaps of mates, business mates and people had done their MBA and he was their marketing professor, raved about Mark. So when I first saw him speak, obviously there was a lot of swearing, but when he especially discussed the 4 Ps, because some people try to slip in a 5th P, a 6th P, a 7th P, and he went ape shit. There are only four fucking Ps. And he says this. So I set him up at the start of the podcast with a very funny analogy from one of my favorite movies. But it's, again, going back to the fundamentals. You don't need to make it complex. The 4 Ps have been around for, decades, and they work. And Mark sticks to those principles and teaches them in a really easy way for small business owners and their management team. So I highly recommend looking at that course. Yeah, one of our businesses that have been through both our 4-week strategy program and our 12-week people program is a great business here in Hobart called Brewlab. And they've got their own brew kit. They make their own beer. They've got a great cafe restaurant there, an amazing team as well. I used to live not far away, so I'd pop in there every week or so after shooting hoops in the sun down the road. So I got to know the team quite well. And Leslie and Dave are 2 of the 4 owners, and they work in the business, and they've got 2 passive shareholders. And from doing the work in the strategy program, Leslie was already owning the marketing as general manager. And I keep banging this into small business owners, you've got to unlock more marketing time, especially in the mornings when you've got your greatest energy. Start with an hour twice a week to be working on the marketing, because I know how busy everyone gets. But if you don't carve that time out and be deliberate, it's not going to happen. And this, as I said, is one of the 2 main growth pillars that's going to add the greatest value. So Leslie was great in adapting and wanting to change and taking all our course material in over those 4 weeks and the 12 weeks with the people. In the strategy program, as I said before, we touch on some of the marketing stuff, point them to the right resources. It's not our core focus, but we know how important it is. And so Leslie really got into that. Marketing's fun, as you know, AJ. And when we got into the people program, I think, in my opinion, the greatest thing that has impacted their marketing, which has done great things for their business, both top line and bottom line, is the people program allowed, and this is Leslie's words, to her to unlock 15 hours a week more to invest in marketing, which it's just like a flywheel. Then it just propels the business forward. And she was able to do that from the 12-week people program by learning how to delegate properly and push work down to the other managers in the business who A players want challenging work. So it's a really interesting take on marketing when I'm talking with small business owners. It's another key point that I make, to find that extra time rather than being on the hamster wheel of the day-to-day. For all the fires you've got to put out, you've got to be deliberate and you've got to delegate. So I think that it's a hidden marketing trick that I think a lot of small business owners miss.
Did you say 15 hours per week that
Yep.
she's coming back? I mean, that's insane. I mean, I was just doing the quick math.
3 hours a day. Yep.
Yeah, a week, a month. I mean, that's, for that immediate impact for a small business, well, it could be immediate. And, you touched on this consistency and repetition, and going back even to Mark Ridson's philosophy, it's about showing up, and not just once or twice, but showing up every day, every week, every month to where your customers are.
Mm.
And so, yeah, for Leslie to be able to do that, I think that's amazing.
I've got a little sub story that's a bit meta, not as in Facebook, in that.
Yeah.
Leslie's been on our cast twice on Quickfire Friday, mainly talking about marketing, destination marketing, because they're in an area, semi-industrial. And early on in our sessions, because through the programs, people have half an hour weekly one-on-one with me. And I asked Leslie when we got to the marketing stuff, I said, how big is the email list? She told me, and I said, it's a decent size. You've been open almost 2 years. Well done. How often do you email people on that list? And she looked blankly into Zoom, and then I restated the question, how many emails have you sent in 2 years to that list? And she said sheepishly 3. I said, right, so we're going to change that. And so very soon, because they've got a lot of events, music, pottery and pints, drag bingo, trivia nights, etc., a lot of new beers, different foods, a lot of newsworthy stuff. And I said, you've got to keep your brand in people's inboxes. It's the best return on marketing you're going to get is email marketing.
Yep.
And so she got into the rhythm, and the emails look great. They're coming out weekly. And it probably would have been 6 months ago. There was a great one that came out, and I forwarded it back to Leslie and said, oh, well done. This is well written. These are, improving every week. And she said, oh, that's great. I'll let Lucy know, because I've delegated now the email newsletter down to the venue manager. So it's
wow.
a little bit meta. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Want specific advice to help you get your business through its #1 growth challenge? Book a free 20-minute growth chat with me, Troy, the founder of Grow a Small Business. I'll recommend some resources which will help you grow your business with ease so you can live the lifestyle you've signed up for. Go to growasmallbusiness.com and click on Growth Chat.
It's interesting because I often talk to people about this, that the first thing I get back as pushback when we talk about email marketing is, oh no, I hate my email. Like, people will get sick of it, and and so and those kinds of, they put those roadblocks up. And so the first conversations always sound something like, oh, some pretty big assumptions to make about how you think other people respond to email, whether it's a promotion or an offer or it's something new coming up like a Brelab. And so when we get through that, the next one is, if someone does absolutely hate it and they hate hearing from you, what is the worst thing's going to happen? What will they do?
Scroll to the bottom of the email and click unsubscribe.
Unsubscribe. And I said, I don't know about you, but I probably wouldn't, lose a whole lot of sleep unsubscribing, but again, it's just putting it into context around the assumptions we make about our customer. So when we're in a business, when we're presenting a brand, we cease to become a customer, because we lose all objectivity. It doesn't matter who you are, how good you are, even as a highly, highly experienced marketer. And Mark Ritson actually talks about this a lot. You cease to be objective, you cease to be the customer, you cease to behave because of your
You live in a bubble. Yep.
Yeah, you live in a bubble, and so yeah, I think, and you're right. We know the research. We know that the data comes out all the time around return on investment and email, and we just need more people understanding how that works and not be afraid to do the send. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And owners are really surprised when they do start more regular emails at how low the unsubscribe rate is for a start. But I do want to make another point or reiterate this point again. The thing that can change people's mindsets, not just in marketing, but in several corners of the business, one thing that can really help is another thing that I bang on about a lot, which is that professional development. So investing in at least an hour a day, 5 hours a week, or half an hour, start with half an hour a day, 2.5 hours a week, and do it in dead time, like driving around town, exercising, walking in the sun, etc. You will be able to find that time. Obviously, you need to find the right books or podcasts to listen to. But if marketing is a focus, as it is for me, you find the right resources, and then these nuggets will start falling out of those podcasts and books, where people will say, you'll hear 2 or 3 leaders say, "Yeah, email marketing's still king." And then people will change their perspective on that. And
1,000%. And you're right, and inspiration and even professional development can come from anywhere. And I don't know, this is probably not going to sit well with everyone, but I use it as an excuse all the time because I'm a marketer, is that even the scrolling at night, or when you're in the bathroom, the inspiration and the ideas that you can pick up from pop culture. Now, some of the pop culture kind of stuff moves really, really, really quickly. Now, whether that's music or a saying or something new that's happening in the market from anywhere around the world, but, if you start to review some of this content with a different lens, from a professional development lens, like, I didn't know that, or, I didn't know what that emoji meant or what that slang term meant, or that there was a new thing. It's just your mindset and changing it and going, "Oh, hang on a minute, I could actually apply that idea, that thought, that approach, in my own approach to marketing." So
Yeah.
pop culture is another a good one to tap into, I reckon.
Now it's my turn to ask you, AJ, what do you see the pain points small business owners or their marketing teams are facing?
Oh, it's so many, but they kind of all sound the same. And I think probably the first one I might even kick back to you, mate, because I know you talk about this a lot and you're really, really good about it. And it's just some of those key marketing metrics. So if you do your bit first about those, and then I'll do some of my pain points that I see a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in our marketing flywheel ebook that we wrote last year. We've now got an audio version. People can see it in the footer of our website. And the 3 things we talk about at the start of that is to track the right data. The second thing is to test, and test again. And the third is a concept that a lot of business owners and marketeers don't fully understand or know about, which is the LTV to CAC ratio, lifetime value of a customer to the customer acquisition cost. And there's a ratio we've talked about in the book there and how to calculate those numbers. But something I see 2 mistakes people make is they're not tracking data or the right data in their marketing. And then secondly, they're not testing for long enough. And they just think that's not, not enough sample size, for example. So that's my rant over.
It's very short to your normal rant,
We've
but
only got 20 minutes, AJ.
I'm proud of you. I suppose for me, the pain point I see all the time, and then I guess it is a frustration to me because I see the trouble people can get into, is they're actually doing a lot of promotional stuff. It's not marketing. So often we'll jump into promotion like a discount. Discount to me is a dirty word. But the buy 2 get 1 free, the free this, the free that. And so they'll try a bunch of promotional tactics and then kind of wonder why they're not moving the needle forward. So if you take into account the things that you touch on, like firstly benchmarking, understand your numbers to start with, and then going right back to strategy. So before you get into promotion, it's ideal to have a marketing strategy. And this is like not just the how or the what, but the kind of why and the who. And this goes into one of, again, I mentioned Ritson again, he's one of his framework, which is understanding what is the market size and who are you actually targeting. Because if you're not doing any segmentation and you're just trying to target everyone, it's, a great way to lose money, lose time, get really, really frustrated. And then that marketing strategy is about collating all the assets that you have, whether it's a website or email or social media or offline or online or, ads on the back of buses or TV, whatever it is. That's when you start putting that into order. And the goal then is that marketing strategy actually supports your business or commercial strategy. And so, and like we've touched on, and we certainly covered in the course, it's about understanding, things like margins and people and resourcing and what systems have you got and who's going to do this and how much time. It's often I find, particularly with smaller businesses, is the marketing strategy is running the business, whereas it needs to be the other way around. So it's, and that's the professional development and getting people to help you craft that. You've probably got it all in your head, but getting it down into some sort of order.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, which is Sun Tzu, a general 2,500 years ago, a Chinese general. Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. So if you don't invest the time to get the strategy right first, you can piss a lot of money up against the wall, running down the wrong way. And key critical decisions like, are we going to have a no discount ever policy, for example, because we want to inch further to a more premium brand. So therefore discounting goes against that. So they're all big strategic discussions, and that's just around pricing. It's just one element of it.
1,000% said perfectly. I love that quote too. Well, we're coming up to 20 minutes. Can you believe it? I mean, it's probably the shortest conversation we've ever had about marketing. Anything you want to close on to say that you want people to sort of think about this pillar?
Yeah, well, maybe we can each leave everyone with one thing that they can do after listening to us. So my number one advice would be to increase your professional development time. A lot of owners aren't actually investing any time listening to great books and podcasts. And if they want marketing resources, I've got a big list of, the best books and podcasts that I've come across that you've sent me, or guests on our podcast have told me about, which I absolutely love. But I'd recommend they book in a 20-minute growth chat with me. Tell me what their number one problem is. If it is marketing, then I can email them through a shit ton of resources that I think will start to change the way they think about marketing for a small business. How about you?
Oh, I love that. I don't know if I can beat that. I don't know. Maybe I think probably sit down and map out a 90-day plan and then a 180-day plan. And then don't try and do everything. Just pick the one or two things, and if you have done a bit of research and segmented your audience, you'll know then what tactics to use to find them.
Yep, great advice. Awesome, AJ. Thank you.
Thanks for being on. Bye.
Bye.
We'd greatly appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to leave our podcast a review on iTunes. If you don't have an account, simply follow us on Spotify. You'll help other small business owners find the cast and valuable content our guests share.